In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to work with constraints. Now, the most obvious example of a constraint is a hole, such as the hole inside of the R. However, there are other applications for constraints as well. You can basically bend an object in a specific direction, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. I've saved my progress as 6approximatespheres.psd, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that holes layer to make it active. And then I'll go up to the 3D menu, choose Repoussé, and choose Layer Mask in this case because my vector mask is not active. I'll get the error message, I'll click OK, and then right away, all of what were formerly holes inside of this orange star end up filling up with gray. Now here's the problem. All of these internal constraints, as they're known, all these internal path outlines are inactive by default. And you've got to wake them up one at a time, and you can either set them to active or hole. Now, you'll do this for one and only one path outline initially, and it's hard to predict which one. I believe it's the one that's on top. However, the best way to gain control over things is to switch to one of these constraint tools down here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Rotate the 3D Constraint tool, and then click on one of these paths, and it gets a heavy dotted outline. This is the craziest interface, and you can't select more than one path outline at a time. And then you would change its type from inactive, which is doing nothing. The idea is you might just have a path outline that you don't want to delete. You just want to keep it around. So it'll just be an inactive constraint, or you make it active. I'm going to show you what that means in just a moment. Or you make it a hole, which is a fairly obvious application of things. And then you get a hole inside of the star and so forth. All right, I'm going to cancel out of here. We're going to do that. We're going to set up the holes in the next exercise because first I want you to understand what's going on with the larger world of constraints in general. I'm going to switch to this document that's called constraintdemo.psd, and I want you to go to your paths panel and click on this small star path, and you can see that I've got a small star inset inside of the larger one. Now I'm going to switch back to my layers panel, and I'm going to double click on the star layer to bring up the 3D panel, and I'll click on star just to make sure it's the active mesh. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and hide the panel. And I want you to go up to the 3D menu and choose Repoussé. And at this point, you can add that path as a constraint by choosing this command. Or here's another way to work. That will open Repoussé, by the way. The other way to work is to just choose the Edit and Repoussé command. I just want you to see both options that are available to you, because this is pretty different stuff if you've never worked with constraints before. And then you drop down to this Add Path button. And that's what we're going to do. Just click on Add Path, and that will add that path as a constraint. Now, it starts off active in this case because we manually added it. That's nice. Go ahead and click on it with one of these constraint tools just to make sure it's truly ready to go here. And then let's make some modifications. For example, let's say we want to pull the star forward. If we push it backward into the larger star, then we're going to cut a hole in the front face and reveal the yellow of the back face. Looks terrible. So let's pull it forward instead. And you could do that using your slide tool if you want to. You can actually drag this thing around. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the Y value to -100, and that pulls that path forward. Positive Y values would push it backward. And then I want to show you these angle and strength values right here. I'm going to set the angle value to 90 degrees, and that's creating a kind of chasm right here along this constraint outline. And you can't see it so well because we're looking straight down at it. And then I'm going to raise the strength value to its maximum, which is 1. Strength has a range from 0 to 1, and that's it. All right, click OK. It doesn't look like we've done all that much except create this kind of crease in the star. But what we've done is create this amazing mountainous growth in the middle of the star. I'm going to click after we get done with the first shadow pass there in order to interrupt the render. And then I'll go over to the paths panel and turn off the small star path by clicking underneath it. Switch back to the layers panel. I'm going to go ahead and select my camera tool, and I'm going to rotate my view of things like so, and you're beginning to get an idea of what's going on here. Check out that incredible mountain that we've created in the middle of the star. And before I go rendering it, I'm going to drag it down by dragging up, actually, because I'm changing my view of things upward, dragging up on the green arrowhead. And I'm also going to move this a little bit forward by clicking to interrupt things and dragging away from the blue arrow so the thing comes toward me because I'm moving forward. And that's too much, a little too much of a direct underview, I think. So I'm going to rotate the z-axis just a little bit like so I can see about this amount here. I suppose we'll be fine. All right, I'll let the shadow go ahead and sort of render in the background there. That's good enough. We don't need any more detail or clarity than that. Click in order to interrupt things. Switch back to my rectangular marquee tool to get the widget off screen. And now I assume we're still working on that same mesh. So I'll go back to the 3D menu, choose Repose, and choose Edit in Repose. So you can get a better sense of what's going on here now that we have this better view of things. All right, so I'll go ahead and find that constraint because currently it's not selected. So I've got to grab one of my constraint tools and I'll click right in there in order to select that constraint, and I got it. And now I can switch to either one of my movement tools here, either the pan tool or the slide tool, in order to find my -100 value. And I could change that if I want to. I could go ahead and reduce the height of that constraint by lowering that value to -50, for example, or I could increase the height to -150. But -100 actually works out pretty well. I know this tumor as growth here isn't really an effect that you'd want, but we're going to change it around here. I just want you to see what happens now. If I change the strength value to 0, everything settles down considerably. If I raise it back up, let's say I decide to take it to 0.4, then I add some swelling to the tissues here. And if I change my angle value, let's say I take it up to 120, then I'm going to change the angle of those edges and the angle at which this growth occurs. If I don't want it to be a growth, if I want it to go down, I would enter a negative value. Let's try -45 and see what we come up with there. And actually, you know what? I think I'll take it down even farther. I'll take it to -90. And so we get this nice valley right here at the point of the inner star. And I might add a little bit of inflation too. I'll take the inflation value up to 90 degrees, and we end up with this very interesting effect. Now, it doesn't look anything like a sheriff's badge, which is why we're not going to apply it to our artwork. But it is definitely intriguing, and you do have that kind of control. So you can use a path outline to grab a specific portion of an extruded shape and determine its location. I could even spin this star around if I wanted to by assigning that path outline as an active constraint there inside the Repose dialog box. In the next exercise, I'll show you how to take those constraints and turn them into holes.